Yeah, because I'm now retired, so that is actually all past. So today we are going to talk about the teachings of the Buddha. And what is the teaching that I select today is the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta is the turning of the wheel of the Dhamma. So this is the first discourse that was given by the Buddha. And when he became enlightened under the Bodhi tree, 2,600 years ago, he achieved the enlightenment, and then he thought, who would he teach? And he remembered with gratitude the first two teachers, Alara Kalama, who taught him to go into the base of nothingness, and Udaka Ramabutta, who taught him to go into the base of neither perception nor non-perception. That means the 7th and the 8th jhanas. But he found that after even going to those high arupa jhanas, he could not realize end of suffering. He still had a lot of defilements. So he was very honest with himself that learning to go to the 7th and the 8th jhanas couldn't get him to the end of suffering. Because what he did when he wanted to go in search for the truth, and this sutta is particularly under Satcha. Satcha means truth. Satcha Samyutta. Samyutta, the collected discourses for the truth. And this is where you will actually look for it. Satcha Samyutta, the collected discourses on the truth. And Samyutta Nikaya 5611. So it's very important that the teachings of the Buddha are now very available to us in the age of internet. So we have to go and read the suttas. Previously is audio. Everything is transmitted by ears. And then the bhikkhus will keep in mind. So before he actually went in search, he saw the old man, the sick man, and the dead man, and the dying man. And then he saw the ascetic. So this, we must reflect, no, that we are all subjected to old age. We are not scam. So do not be intoxicated with youth. Right, yeah? Okay? I'm young, I'm strong, I'm invincible. One day you grow old, sense eyes, sense teeth, sense nose, sense ears. That's what Shakespeare says. One day we will be like that. And that we are not exempt from sickness. We do not know when we will fall sick. Yes? Oh, I will lead the meditation after the talk. So what we are going to do is that sutta study or reading suttas have a practice behind it. And the Buddha will teach or give the discourse on the sutta for the bhikkhus to practice, not for just reading. It is something that he taught in the suttas directed to the student to overcome the problem. So similarly, we will do the practice after the sutta. And we will use the sutta as a base for the practice. Okay, yeah? So we're talking about old age, sickness, and death. So this is a theme that he started with, that he had truly seen just a sight of an old man or sick man and of a dead man, that he is not escaped from that. And he wants to find out how to get out of that kind of suffering. And so he left his richness behind, his wealth, his beautiful wife, his newborn son, to go in search for that truth. And then after 6 years of self-mortification, because the peaceful jhanas didn't give him the answer, so he thought that self-mortification could. So, but it couldn't. So after he realized that it must be the middle path, That means not in self-indulgence and not in self-mortification. In the middle path, and he did the anapanasati, and then he realized. So after he realized, he wanted to spread these teachings. And when Alara Kalama and Udaka Ramabutta had already passed on, then he thought of the 5 ascetics who were his sort of like comrades in the 6 years that he was struggling for the quest for enlightenment. But they already left him because he took food. They said that he had backslided. But once the Buddha had realized, then he went in search for them because he says that they may be able to understand. They may have the capacity to understand. So he moved from Bodhi Gaya all the way to Benares, and this is the place, Benares. So Benares is where the wheel of Dhamma is turned. And the Buddha in the Mahaparinibbana says that for students of the Buddha, this is one of the places that if you go or you see, your joy will come out, because this is where the turning of the wheel of the Dhamma is started from. And this is where once it turns, it will not stop. This is what the Buddha declared. And how does the wheel turn? The wheel turn is like a wheel when a child plays a wheel, and then they move the wheel from himself to another. And the other one, they hook it and then turn it around. So this is how the wheel is turned. Now, if there's no receiver, then the wheel will just left at the Buddha's feet. But because he could transmit this understanding to another, then the wheel is turned. So this is how it means that the wheel of Dhamma, the turning of the wheel of the Dhamma, started 2,600 years ago, and it will not stop as long as it is in this dispensation, and that the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path is practiced. So this is what the Buddha declared. Now, so he says self-indulgence. This is a cigarette, not to take cigarettes. Otherwise, you will be on fire. So it is to say that the 5 senses, if you indulge in any of the 5 senses, indulge. So the Buddha says, so if you are here, sense pleasures, we cannot touch sense pleasures. It's indulging. So it's not to indulge in the sense pleasures. So he will say moderation, the middle path. So if we indulge, then our eyes are on fire. Have you seen lustful people? The eyes, you know whether the person is lustful, you look at the eyes. Right, huh? They're greedy for the something. So when you see, I see some food there, right? Afterwards, you see where the eyes descend on. That's when that delight for it. And then there's this sutta that the Buddha says, competent cook and incompetent cook. So I thought it was very good. He says that this cook doesn't, he's incompetent because he doesn't see where the king delight in what food. So, and then the competent cook is one who knows what the king likes to eat. Then he will get his job right. So the next time he will give the food that the king likes. So he says when we look at our mind, we must also look at our mind in that way. We must investigate what does the mind likes and what the mind dislikes. So you must be able to be competent cooks too. So like sometimes your parents or whatever will know your favorite food, right? Will buy your favorite food. So it is the competent mom who knows how to, or the competent lover who will know how to feed. They say get the man through the stomach, right? Isn't it? So this is, you have to be very competent. So this competency is that you must know where your mind goes for its pleasures and for the the unpleasant part. So you must know the likes and the dislikes. And that you must see whether your likes have gone into the danger zone. The danger zone is when you cannot sleep without it. You spend 4 hours on your smartphone or 7 hours. Nowadays, they say they spend a long, long time on the smartphone. Whatever it is, you must use it and not let it use you. So it's like alcohol, or it's like many other things. You read in the newspaper how people get trapped and committed offenses because of their greed, their hatred, and their delusion. They think that this indulgence, gambling, did you hear the news, the gambling news? No? The sexual dialysis. So if all this is, there is an indulgence, because they think that these are permanent. They want to enjoy. There's an addiction to it. So the Buddha always says, whatever you are doing, you must see the gratification, and you must also see the danger. It's the same thing, like you go for surgery, or you want to take injection, or you want to take medication. You must know the risks and the benefits. If the benefits outweigh the risk, you take it. You are the one knowing the risk and the benefits, then you take it. So this is called informed consent. You are informed of all the information. So this is how we have to know things. Know the gratification and the danger and the escape. So the Buddha says the escape is in the middle path. He says don't go to the sense indulgence. He says don't make a monkey out of yourself. And he says in another sutta, what monkey? He says in those times when the forests and the hills are very, very high, the monkeys, all those rare monkeys, go on the very, very high slopes. And then the men will want to hunt these monkeys down. And they lay pitch tar. You know what's pitch tar? Pitch tar is all those black things that they put on the tar they put on the ground. And you don't want to step on it, because once you step on it, it will like stick to your shoes. So here they lay this trap down for the monkeys. So some monkeys didn't touch it. But some monkeys, out of whatever, maybe they put some food or what, to attract them. Then he touched. Then after that, can't get out. Then put the other foot down. Try to get out. Or put the hand. Then after put the head down to get himself out of it. So the 5 is caught. The 5, the head, 2 limbs, upper limbs, 2 lower limbs are caught. So the 5 senses are caught. And then the hunter will do with him what he likes. So he says to us, don't be a monkey caught in the pitch tar. So there is sense indulgence. And then he says an example of the hawk. The hawk, he says this hawk, the hawk, have you seen the nature movies? The hawk will come down and they are carnivorous, so they swap down on little creatures. So this hawk was caught a quail. You know what's quail eggs, right? So the quail is a small bird. So they caught this quail, and then this quail, while being caught and was up in the air, told the hawk, if I have not gone out of my ancient domain, you wouldn't have caught me. You wouldn't be able to catch me. The hawk, how can you say, I cannot catch you? I can catch you anywhere. Tell me, where is your domain? I can put you down and I'll show you I can catch you. Then it says, there, over there, the field of clods, a lot of clods, lumps of hard rock there. That's where my field is. Then the hawk says, no problem. Okay, put you down. Put me down in the biggest clod, lump of hard rock. Then it says, stand down. Then it says, okay, I'm coming for you. Then the hawk came swooping down. And then the quail says, come get me. And come get me quick. And then after that, just as this hawk was swooping down, he just stepped aside behind the clod. And it was said that the hawk then was smashed its breast was smashed against the rock and died. So he says, Buddha says, don't wander out of your ancient domain. And where is your ancient domain? Your ancient domain is to guard yourself. Guard yourself, guard your sense doors. If you wander out of your, if you do guard duty and you wander out, then you are off. Okay, you'll be put into whatever the NS people says, whatever, you put in, be charged or whatever. So you must never go off guard. If you go off guard, Mara will get you. He will tempt you with sense pleasures. And then you will be caught. And you'll be caught, you'll be burning like this. Burning like this. And so if you do not want to be burnt, then you have to guard your ancient domain. Your ancient domain of your six sense spaces, and you guard it well. So now self-mortification. So this is pleasure, right? So sense indulgence is pleasure. Then the other one is self-mortification. So self-mortification, the Buddha had done the extremes. People say extreme, right? He said he had done the extreme of self-mortification. He has ate so little, he punished himself, pull the hair out, pull the eyebrows, pull the beard, lie on the thorns, and then squat continuously or stand continuously or go into the water in the extremes of the temperature. This is to self-mortify himself because they believe that your previous karma is very heavy. So you need to get rid of your previous bad karma. So they say that if you get rid of your bad karma, you may be able to realize. So that was the understanding or the view at that time. And so they practiced self-mortification. And when he started eating, because he nearly died out of starvation, turning blue, gray, and the hair all falling off, lack of nutrition, and he so weak as pee and poo at where he was, that he has no more strength. But fortunately for us, he had the wisdom to say, oh, this is really pain. Pain, and he couldn't realize. So he decided that he would actually take some food to nourish himself, and that he also remembered the practice of anapanasati. The anapanasati is not indulging in the sense pleasures. It's not of the sense pleasures that he was indulging, but of having pleasant abiding in the mind. So then he went back to the middle path. So he did not go into self-mortification. Do we self-mortify ourselves? We do, right? We self-mortify ourselves. So this is the unpleasant part. This is the ill will part. So when we mortify ourselves, saying that we have not done enough, we are very remorseful, regret, etc., and you ruminate again and again. When you ruminate again and again to bring up the past, then you are self-mortifying. Here now we don't have such physical things as to self-mortify, but it's in our mind how we traumatize ourselves again and again with the past. So there's self-mortification. And so the Buddha says, don't go to either way. Don't go to either way. So he says that the first of the Noble Eightfold Path is right understanding of suffering and the end of suffering. So he says, go on the middle path. And the Noble Eightfold Path starts with the right understanding. And the right understanding is not of like rocket science or how does the smartphone works or what other upgrading that we need, but it's just this suffering. Your mind goes to saying that whatever you do or say or think, does it lead to suffering? To yourself, to another, and to both. So this is what your mind will go around. And then you see that it comes with the right thoughts. The right thoughts is nikkama. So nikkama is to let go of that sense indulgence or that addiction. And then non-ill will and non-cruelty. So you see, of the three right thoughts, he put down there nikkama, avyapada, ahimsa. So 2 out of 3, he says, don't go to self-mortification. So one, get rid of the sense indulgence. The other, don't go to the vyapada, the agitation. So you can see then it leads to the other parts of the Noble Eightfold Path of then the right speech, the right action, the right livelihood, the right effort, mindfulness and concentration. So this is the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Noble Eightfold Path, you can see that the screen, the length seems to be big, right? But it's only a thread, a line where your mind moves. And then you have to see how it moves. So you have to be watching your mind whether it's going this way or that way. But if you're going this way or that way, then you have to walk straight. So this is the Noble Eightfold Path. And when you walk the middle path, he says that you will have the vision, the insight, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the light. It's only when you're very quiet and your mind is not disturbed. So when you're having sense indulgence, it says that your mind is colored with dyes. The Chinese will say se for the rupa, se. That means it's so beautiful. So when you see a sunset or sunrise, you see the beauty of it. But the Buddha says, look at the changing nature of the sunrise and the sunset. So we are focused on the wrong thing. So we are focused on the beauty, but we have to focus on the impermanent nature. So here, when you have that vision, so in each, so we say, Pachatam Vedi Tabu Vinuhiti, means the wise each for himself. Your vision is your own vision. Your vision of the Dhamma is your own. So you have to practice to see that vision. The vision in your wisdom eye, the vision. Once you see it, that vision, sometimes seeing is believing, right? That seeing is in a very quiet, very secluded, and very clear, then you see it. So then when you see it, nobody can change your vision because you are the one who see it. So then you have the vision and then the insight. Some people may see the vision but have no insight. They will see, but they will not have the insight. So they have to develop the Noble Eightfold Path and to direct the mind to see the impermanent nature, the fading nature, the cessation of the nature, and then the release. Then that is the Dhamma. So with that, you have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the light. That's how the Buddha explained to the 5 ascetics. So avoid 2 extremes. So you are the only one who knows your own problems. Avoid the extremes. Middle Noble Eightfold Path give rise to vision, knowledge, and with that knowledge is the serenity, the calmness, the special knowledges, the enlightenment, and nibbana. Nibbana means the end of craving and extinction. Extinction of craving. Then he went. So he says, so you can see, he then went on to the 4 Noble Truths because this is what he wants to share with them. He says, don't go to these 2 extremes. Now they were practicing self-mortification, right? And then they have already abandoned sense indulgence. So it is this view that he needs to break. So we have the taints of sense pleasures, we have the taints of views, we have the taints of becoming, and the taints of ignorance. So for the 5 ascetics, they already have removed their taint of sense pleasures. They are already on the path. So they all have this problem with the view that they must practice self-mortification. So when he tells them, don't go to these two, because going to these two, it is not the noble path. It is anariyo, not the noble path. Then he says, what is the truth that can lead you out of that suffering? He says, is this the Four Noble Truths. Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha, Magga. So it's all about the Four Noble Truths. So to them, he says, birth, aging, disease, death. It is bad. So he says he has seen aging, disease, death, right? That was his first three signs. And then he now knows why do we have these three? Because of birth. If we don't have birth, we don't have aging, sickness, and death. But because of birth, then we have aging, disease, and death. So in his quest, so you can see every of the sutta, when the arahants have realized there is no more birth, no more becoming. So there is no more aging, sickness, and death. Even in the heavenly realms, they have aging. They will smell once they are about to die. So in all existences, there is bad. So remember that. Do we want bad? Sounds like you. No response means what? Don't understand. So don't understand requires further sort of walking on the Noble Eightfold Path. So this is what the Buddha taught to the five ascetics. This is suffering. And further is that sorrow, agitation, despair, depression, somanasa is sad. So it's bad and it's sad. Do we want that? You decide. You decide whether you want sad and bad. And then we get separated from the pleasant and together with the unpleasant. And then the not getting what we want. This is suffering. So he summarizes all this. He says clinging to the five aggregates is suffering. In short, he says clinging to the five aggregates is suffering. Because what is five aggregates? It's the body. Okay, it's the body. We have a mind and body. And some of the Deva realms have body. Except for the Arupa realms, there's no body. Most realms have a body and a perception. And there's this perception of sorrow, aging, disease, despair. So here we all have these worries about aging, medical care, etc. Right? It's a real thing, right? Is it not a real thing? Okay, so it's actually clinging to the body, to the feeling, to the perception, to the mental formations and the consciousness. He says that we are of just the mind and body. So if you think that clinging to the five aggregates is like very, very difficult to understand, then it's just clinging to your mind and clinging to your body. This is what this is about. Clinging to your mind and clinging to your body. So this is dukkha. Clinging to both is dukkha. Then we have the cause. So you have suffering, so you have a disease. So what is the cause? So the Buddha says is craving. Like you have a sickness, you have to find out the origin, right? You're not just, putting out the fires. You put out the fire comes again the next time. You keep on putting out. So we want to find the source of the fire. So the source of the fire is craving. He says craving, that delighting in this and that. And then delighting in what? In the five senses, kama tanha, bhava tanha, the becoming, the wanting something to be pleasant. And vibhava tanha is aversion, not wanting this to exist. Some people have aversion to their physical state, like they can't move, and that they rather die, they want to ask for euthanasia, and then there are people who ask to be killed, etc., if they have certain illnesses, etc. So there's vibhava tanha. So there was a lady who wanted to die, and she applied to the court in England, in UK, because she couldn't bear being a tetraplegic. So she applied, but as usual, like Brexit takes a long time, so it's similar, the court appeal, all that takes a long time. So after about 1 or 2 years of this dallying about whether to approve her dying or not, in the end, the court approved. But then she said, I don't want to die now. So you see, anicca, the mind can change. So at that point in time, you are so averse to the body. But you see, medical technology nowadays is improving all the time. You can, using your brainwaves, be detected, and then start learning how to move gadgets, etc. So this, they say, disability is just the environment having a problem. You just have to create the environment, change the environment, modify the environment, so that the person be enabled. So there is no disability, but environmental disability to enable the person to do. So this is the thinking behind. So here we have origination. The origination of all this suffering is craving. And this delighting is you delight, so you want to touch, right? So afterwards you see what you want to touch. Okay, after that you touch, you consume. So this is delighting, the touching, the contacting. But the cessation of that craving can be done. So it can be giving up, abandonment. So it's chakko, pitinisago, muti, analayo. So there are different stages of letting go. Different stages of letting go of clinging. Because we have been in samsara so long, right? Already in our DNA to cling. Because if it is, this is the way we sort of like respond. In samsara, pleasant things we will like sort of embrace and hold tightly, and unpleasant things we sort of like move away. So this is like a survival instinct. If there is danger, we want to move away. If there is something nice, we want to move towards it. And then we sort of become very savvy how to navigate around this. And so this is how to get over this clinging. And there's a gradual path. And this gradual path allows a complete detachment. And first is giving up. First, of course, you must recognize your bad habits. If you don't recognize, you will continue to go on. So first is recognize. You don't recognize, you will carry on. So when you give up your pack of cigarettes, you give it up. And then you turn away, you abandon it. Abandon. And then you are released when you no more crave for it. And that analayo, non-attachment. That means you look at it, there is no wanting to touch it anymore. So you can see you have abandoned your toys, right? Have you abandoned your toys, your car toys, your toy cars, and then replaced with a bigger car? Have you abandoned your toys, and then now take up Hello Kitty? So you see what type of toys you have abandoned, and really you have abandoned. And then you say, no more, it doesn't affect you anymore. So there are stages where you have to train yourself. So this requires a training. And then you will know for yourself. So this is a right understanding. A right understanding is the developed in this magga. You must know that right understanding, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration is the path to end the suffering. So this is the Four Noble Truths. And these Four Noble Truths, it says there's a rising and there is a ceasing of the suffering. And there is a way, there's a path to do it. And it's a noble eightfold path. So you reflect yourself. You have like grown to be an adult. Our bodies grow old, but our wisdom may not. Are we stuck in our minds in childhood? Or in what stage? So we have to grow. We have to abandon. So you know that we have abandoned certain things, and we know that we have more to go. So this is the training. It is a self-motivated sort of path. So the Buddha only showed the path. We have to walk it. If you don't walk it with effort, with mindfulness and concentration, of course the Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, then we will suffer again and again. And all this suffering is self-inflicted. No one inflict on you. You inflict on yourself. Because that craving is your own. Right. So he says these Four Noble Truths: suffering, the origination, the cessation, and the path. And then he says each of the Four Noble Truths, they have three circles. Three circles. So you can have one circle, two circles, three circles. Same lah, how you all follow this one circle, two circles, three circles. And then you have 3 times 4, 12. So what is this? So we all have said the Four Noble Truths already. Okay. The Four Noble Truths, there's suffering, origination, cessation, and path. So he said it should be understood. It should be abandoned. It should be realized, cessation, and the path should be developed. So for alcohol addict, for gambling addict, for whatever addict, it should be understood. But some people may not understand it. Some people may be but then they don't understand it. And so it had to be abandoned. It should be abandoned, and then should be realized, and then should be developed. So had been understood, had been abandoned, had been realized, had been developed. So he says that after he understands this completely in its 12 aspects, then he became perfectly enlightened. He perfectly knows each of the 12 aspects of the Four Noble Truths. So in the beginning, he saw this, the signs of suffering. Then he go and find out the origination and then the cessation. He saw this and he had fully developed and he had realized it. He had abandoned and had fully, had done all that. So it's up to us, each individual, to understand the Four Noble Truths in its 12 aspects. So Kondana, one of the 5 ascetics, his name was Kondana. And then so the Buddha had been repeating this, right? The Four Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths. So out of the 5, 1 understood. So Kondana understood that everything arises, also ceases. And that is Yam Kinchi Samudaya Dhammam, Sabba Tam Nirodha Dhammam Ti. It means that whatever arises, whatever Dhamma arises, whatever arises, all of them have a nature of cessation. All Dhamma arise and all Dhamma ceases. So he understood this. So the Four Noble Truths is origination, cessation, suffering, origination, cessation. So he sees this origination and cessation. So when the Buddha gives this first discourse, he understood origination and cessation. He says suffering arises and suffering ceases. And because he understood this, whatever Dhamma which arises has the quality of extinction. So because he understood this, of arising and cessation, then he is said to have understood. And then it is understood, so the will has been passed to Kondana. So this teaching is sort of passed to Kondana. That this understanding, he then sees the same understanding as the Buddha. As this part, whatever condition arises also ceases. Whatever Dhamma arises, whatever conditional things that arises, has the condition of ceasing. So when this wheel of Dhamma has sort of turned, the earth gods, the earth devas rejoice. And they rejoice and uttered. By the Lord at Varanasi, in the dear part at Isipatana, this unsurpassed will of the Dhamma has been set in motion, which cannot be stopped by any ascetic, Brahmin, Deva, Mara, Brahma, or by anyone in the world. So this is what the earth devas, rejoice and uttered. So also you can see all the earth devas rejoice and uttered this. And when they rejoice and utter this utteration, they utter this and then it gets transmitted to the higher and higher heavens. So the devas of the four great kings pass this rejoice utteration and then pass to the devas of the Tavatimsa. The devas of Tavatimsa haven't heard this. And then to the Yama, and then to the Tusita, to the Nimaranati, to the Paranimitta Vasavati, the Brahma realms, and on and on and on to the devas of the Akanita. To say that the will of Dhamma has been turned by the Buddha at Benares, and it will not be stopped by any being. And so rejoice in that the Dhamma will continue as long as the practice is there. So this is how the Dhamma will is done. So the 10,000 world systems shook, quake. So there was an earthquake and trembled. An immeasurable glorious radiance appeared in the world, surpassing the divine majesty of the Deva. So at that time there was a brilliant light. Then Buddha added, Kondana knows. Anya Kondana became his name. Anya means the one who knows, Anya. So he has the name now, Anya Kondana. So this is the end of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So you all must have read the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So when you read the Sutta, it may be very long, because there's a bit of repetition. But all the suttas, they have this sort of like repetition in order to reinforce the memory. But the essence of it all is that what the Buddha taught is the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, and in its 12 aspects to be fully understood, and the path is to be developed. And that the take-home is not to go to either the indulgence and not to self-mortification, and just at the middle path. So this is the end of the talk. Any questions you want to ask about the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta?
Any questions from brothers and sisters? You can just raise your hand and I'll go over your side to pass the mic.
Mr. Ong, is it? Chan, Chan Ong.
Quite near. Yeah, I think thanks, Doctor, for the very insightful discourse into this sutta. Okay, my question is actually quite simple. You say that the wheel of Dhamma has been turned and cannot be stopped. So I think we all can agree with that, or generally can be agreed with that. But the trouble is when the wheel is turned, it is, as it goes down the line, it is added on when people touch it or scrape it or what, and then in the end, the original wheel is not the wheel that was being spinned, meaning that the teachings are always adulterated. Just like when I'm listening to you, or all of us are listening to you, each of us will have our own understanding of what you say. And then if I want to become a teacher and then use your teachings, I'll add my own preference, my own conditioning into that. If at all I become a teacher, but lucky thing I'm not going to become a teacher. See? So how do we prevent such addition and subtraction from the original teachings of the Buddha and keep it running the way it should be down eons of years? But I know it's not going to happen, which we have seen. We've got Mahayana, we have got Vaishnava, we have got, even among Theravadians, there are many traditions of Theravadians because each add their own understanding, subtract their own understanding. So how do we then try to keep the original view intact?
Right. So you see, when the Buddha, initially after his enlightenment, he wasn't very keen to teach. And then it is, he says that what I saw is so hard that it's very hard for others to realize. And Brahma Sahampati then requests him to say, please teach, because there will be people with little dust. So the people with little dust will understand and will continue to share the Dhamma. Now, the conditional, it changes. This is exactly what will happen because it's the nature for changes. When something is sort of static, they think, then man wants change. So what Obama said, change, right? Huh? Change. And so the even religious teachings, Christian teachings, Islamic teachings, Buddhist teachings, they will evolve. They will evolve with time because man has views. And who speaks loudest wins. I mean, most times the charismatic teacher, whatever, may win. So there may be this, you say, fears of adulteration. But you see, the man with little dust will be able to see. And the man with little dust will share. And the ones who hear will understand if you have little dust. And it will be the man who is wise to assess the teacher. It's up to each individual. Some people are taken by the form, by the charisma of the teacher, or some people will listen to the substance of what has been taught. And now we are in this era where the teachings of the Buddha, 17,000 suttas, have been laid down, where it's so readily accessible. It's like the Buddha talking to us. So this teacher that we have, the perfect teacher, so there may be other teachers, but then we read from his teachings. And even from his teachings, you know that some of the suttas that are passed down, they are somewhat adulterated. And so it is up to you to choose the essence and then to choose whatever there is in it to practice. So it is nature for the schools to come in, for different things to come in. But despite of all these changes, so the basic tenets of the Dhamma is the Four Noble Truths. So they don't dispute. None of the schools dispute this basic Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. So all these schools have their means to an end. So all these different schools have a means to an end. Some take a longer journey, some take a shorter journey, but you have known that there are sages, wise men, sages of these different schools. And after that, they use this medium of this school, depending on the conditions that they face. They meet with this particular school at their young age. And then after that, they pick it up. Then after that, they explore it. So it's after some time, then they will use this means to an end. And even then, the end, he leaves the means behind. So it is like they will say, the Buddha will say, this Dhamma is just a raft that you use to cross the ocean or the floods of desires, of ignorance. And you cross over to the other side, you will leave that schools behind. You leave the rafts behind. Because that's the point, to go to the top. And then that's it. Leave it behind. You don't keep on holding the raft. So in that sense, he will say that it is inevitable that there will be views. But he says that his teaching, he doesn't disparage another of their views. If it's like disparaging another of their views, Buddhist schools, or different religious views, then it is also forming a mental formation. You are also having identification. So this having a view, he says lose that view. So then if you lose a view, you don't need to quarrel over views. You have the right to your view, I have a right to my view, and then each one will walk their own path, and then at the end of this journey, it's just sayonara, that's all. Nothing to fight over. Don't fight until what's happening down, 50 bodies now in New Zealand. No, they fight over religious views or extremism of the color of the skin. And you peel off the color, then it's all the same. White, yellow, orange, black, it's all the same. If I need to get to your appendix, I know where is it. So it's all the same. So you see the problem with that, we are actually more similar than different. But if we talk about the differences so much, then we cannot connect. And then if you don't connect, we fight, we kill. So first we have a divorce, then after that, all this time, spent on unnecessary things instead of the essential. Then it's like mopping up the mess when you will be actually, having a pleasant time instead of mopping up. So here we don't worry too much. We just have to plot on the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path.
Right, any more questions, brothers and sisters? Any more questions?
Yes,
brother. Brother, pass.
What are the 10,000 world systems?
10,000 world systems. I think it's just an expression. An expression, I won't be able to like 1, 2, So it's just a rejoicing in all the world systems. that this don't reverberate with this truth, with this joy that the Dhamma will has been turned. So this is the 10,000 words. It's just, if you read, I just cut short because, I went right to the Akanita, just because there are so many, when you read the Sutta, so many realms. So I think just cut short. So it is the world systems that like shake. So we say, how many cells do you all have? The 10,000 cells, 10,000 or more cells. And when we are rejoicing, every cell of our body rejoices. It's not only just one cell, it's systemic. It's systemic, and then if they rejoice, it spreads, then it ripples across, to the system. If there's a joy, then it ripples. Yes.
Doctor, I would like to ask a question. If all sufferings is because of birth, due to birth, if there's no birth, there's no suffering. So I have two daughters. So when they get married, should I advise them not to give birth?
Okay. It's the same, the question arises with their sons. It doesn't have a gender bias. So here we have birth in the sense of physical birth, and then the birth in the sense of mental birth, and a sense of rebirth. Okay, so we talk about there are many people who says that, many couples who say that they don't want to get married. They just want a companionship because having children is so difficult. And you don't know, once you are a parent, you have to worry about the child's development, what type of values that the child will have, whether he will contribute to society or he will destroy society. Will he be an addict? Will he be a parasite? You don't know what the child will become, despite of all your good intentions. So there is an uncertainty of the development, just as there's an uncertainty of the future. So as long as there's this uncertainty of what will happen, then people say they don't want children because they say it's so expensive, to have children. So they would rather, let's just indulge in ourselves. Life is so stressful. So they have so many views. And then this, for your daughters, you only take care of yourself. The children have their own conditions. They will meet with different conditions. They have different desires. And you do not impose your values and desires on them. It is up to them. Once they understand, then they say, I don't want to marry. I don't want to have children. This is their understanding. You may have good intentions. You might say, no, don't give birth to children because this will lead to a lot of suffering. It's not that way only, not even the physical birth. Not the physical birth. They are here already, whatever it is, whatever conditions that develop for each individual child, and it depends on the individual's cravings. Then your daughter will say, Father, then why you have me?
I'm not a Buddhist yet. When I marry, I'm not.
Okay, right. So here we have the children. They will have their own growth. They will encounter different conditions. Then they have also a karmic inheritance. This karmic inheritance is in their mind. Have they already, not want to get married, not want to have children, and then or they have very wish to have children. In their karmic past, they might have happy families. They like children. when they see children, they delight in children. No, so it's individual development. The individual will say no. So they see it as a suffering, then they say no. You cannot impose your glasses, wear my glasses. You can't do that. They have to see it themselves, then they make the choice. So the advice to the parents is that you sort of like make sure they are safe, you educate them, give them certain values, spend time with them, guide them, bring them to Buddhist fellowship, etc. Then how they grow up, because they are impacted with so much info from the parents, and then of course they must also understand karma, etc. So then when they meet, when they grow up, they know how to assess, they know how to analyze situation, they know how to say this is gratification, this is danger, don't touch. Then of course when you read news, you want to whatever that's happening, you say, see what happened when you do. It's not individual or personal to the person. It's just that this person is addicted to gambling. See what happens. So you will see such things. So then this is how we actually sort of like train the next generation. And then the values then are imparted to them. Whether or not they want to give birth or not is up to their choices.
Any more questions? Actually, I do have a question also.
Okay.
So there's some people who says that, like the Buddhists teach about craving is the source of suffering, right? But yet when you talk about the craving to attain Nibbana, there's also in itself a craving. Then they say it become like a paradox in between two of this. So how would you explain about these things?
Okay. So this question was asked to Venerable Ananda by another, So all these questions, if you read the suttas, all these questions are passé, They all have been asked. So you read the suttas, you get all the answers you have. So Venerable Ananda was asked this question. And then he says, isn't this wanting Nibbana is a craving? Right. Then the Ananda says, yes, it's in a way. So he says, you come to this place to meet me. So like you come to Buddhist fellowship to listen to the Dhamma taught today. So you must have a craving, right? A craving in a sense, not sort of like addicted type of thing, but you want to come. So there must be a will, there must be an intention to wake up at a certain time, and then to eat your breakfast, then get your transport, then you come all the way here. Then once you arrive here, you listen to the talk, your craving has ended, right? So he says, then the craving ends. So it's the same thing, he says. So when the craving is part of the chanda, so we have the 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances, there's a karma chanda. That means desires for the 5 sense bases. But in the spiritual basis, the 4 spiritual powers, out of the 37 factors of enlightenment, the 4 spiritual bases, one of them is chanda. You must have the will to practice. So the Buddha says, strive. So you must have that desire to practice, the intention to practice. To practice, the goal is to end the suffering. So you must have that chanda. And then, of course, you must have the energy. And then the mind. And then the investigation. So these 4 spiritual bases is sort of like geared towards the fight, the Dhamma warrior fight. To fight the defilements and to fight to dispel the ignorance. So you still have to have this chanda, but this chanda is a noble chanda. And after that, he says, abandon it. Don't cling to it. Because he sees cessation. In all this one thing, it can be experienced. So this is what he explains. Ananda, come to this? Yeah, it's yes. We need that intention. And of course, he will say that the goal for Nibbana is first to have good friends, listen to Dhamma, have faith, then you will have your mindfulness and clear comprehension of origin and cessation, and then you would not commit any of the 3 misconducts. So then you won't have the 5 hindrances to the practice. And if these 5 hindrances are gone, then they don't nourish ignorance. Because these 5 hindrances of sense pleasures, of ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, and doubt, nourishes ignorance. And then ignorance will nourish craving. So he says to dispel them, you must have the faith and listen to the Dhamma. And then practice the 37 factors of enlightenment. You know, it's just like a big word, 37 factors, but actually, he says when you listen to the Dhamma, you don't have lust. So you ask yourself, have lust or not? No lust, right? Do you have ill will? No ill will, right? So you don't have you are not sloth and torpor, right? You're listening, right? You're conscious, listening. You're attentive to it with vital importance. So you're attentive, you're alert. You're not restless, you're listening. And you have no doubt, you're not lost. So the 5 hindrances, when you listen to the Dhamma, they are abandoned. And then so there arise the Dhamma. You understand. No? So this is the way where the 5 hindrances are abandoned by listening to the Dhamma. This is, so you come, this part is the noble path, the 37 factors of enlightenment. So Chanda is part of that.
Right. Any other questions? Sure.
Yeah, just a continuation of my original question. So you talk about singularity becomes multiplicity. So now I'm asking you whether it is possible to have multiplicity going back to singularity, meaning that you focus on Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, and the origination. Will you foresee all the traditions saying, let's forget all about the rest, focus on these 3, and go back to singularity? Do you foresee that happening, and how long would that take for that to happen?
Okay, how long it takes? How long it takes to arrive?
Back to the singularity that
right.
you originate from.
Okay. Actually, how long it arrives depends on whether you have cataract or not, right? So the vision, whether you have dust in your eyes or not, depend on whether it's blocked or not. So it depends on how, on where, what. There are so many conditions, and it varies from person to person. So that is actually quite individual. The realization.
I wasn't talking about the individual, I'm talking about the global scene where you have many traditions and all that. So since you all talk about Noble Eightfold Path, there's Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and Origin as the main core, can we all agree that throw away all the rest and just focus on these core things, which is the original, everybody agree on it, and then slowly move back to singularity, on the global kind of thing, not individual level?
Right. So the fire starts here. The fire is here. You only have to shower. You don't care about other people first. So when you're clean, then you can, why care about global when your house is dirty? Isn't it? So, I mean, if you cannot start within, it's very hard. How are you going to pick up all the trash in the neighborhood? So sometimes it's very difficult. So the Buddha will say, certain things, abandon them. Do you see all those mobile, all these bikes be abandoned? So you also in your mind, they are not yours, abandon them. No, they all have this mentality, not yours, they abandon it. That of civic consciousness not there. So the thing here is this, you must know the essential from the non-essential. If you cannot clean yourself, how to clean another? If you do not know how to do CPR, how to do it on another? You know, it's like you must know what to do first. You don't have to worry about the rest. So exactly what it means that the wheel of Dhamma is turned and no being will stop it, because there will be beings with little dust who will be able to see. And then there are now, it's all over. People will be fed up of all these unwholesome things going on. They will then turn and look for the wholesome things. What went wrong? Then they will turn and look. And also, where the platform has, where the crime is committed, is where it is also found. Where internet, you say all this, but it's just how you use it. The good and bad is there. You just choose to look for the good thing. You don't go to the porno sites, you don't go to all these violent sites. You don't go there. You just go to where can give you the Dhamma. You go and choose. So there's a wise choice to choose.
Thank you.
Okay. So you asked for the meditation, right? Yeah? I sort of disrupted the usual process. So what we do now is that we will just sit comfortably, or you want to stand up for a while because you've been sitting there for some time. You can stand up for a while. And stretch yourself. So we hear all these sighs of relief. So they call this let go. So you just let go of these aches, etc. Make yourself comfortable before we solve. I think we just do standing meditation for a while. Okay? So you just stand up. It's 12:30, right? You all finish at 12:30, so you all will finish at 12. You all have chanting after that, right? There will be a bit of chanting, right? Okay. So then now,